Good morning. It is 8:39, and it's time for the Revelstoke Mayor Report with our new Mayor, Gary Sulz. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning, Sean, and good morning, Buckley.
That's right. There's a new dog in the office.
And he's just a tiny one.
I know. He's a bit of a horse, isn't he? So, Gary, you had your swearing in. Everyone's all in and in place.
Everybody's in.
You got your new seat at the table.
I do.
Now, where do you sit at the dinner table? Is that the same spot, right at the head?
Pretty much.
There you go. That's exciting stuff. So, what's our first week like so far? How is it feeling? Of course, it's hard to get anything out just yet, but...
Yeah, that's good. We started last week doing some governance exercises, doing some workshops, had some third-party people come in to kind of teach us some of the things that we'll be going through and how council works. We'll be having more workshops in the next week. So we're doing things that is going to set the council up to actually understand how things work and to succeed on what we do.
Well, you certainly have a group of people that want to learn, and that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, they're very eager and want to get right at it. So it's kind of nice to see that, but we have to temper that just a little bit with the learning process and everybody's understanding of that. So.
You should make them take some theater sports for an hour or so. Like really get into that. What is it? The ball passing thing? You got to say each other's names back and forth. All those silly little things. They work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So you first were met with a slight little tick of controversy right out the gate, which is it's nice to see. There was that little thing about what was going on down at Williamson's Lake, and I'm assuming when I read the article, my impression when I got it felt like you just sat down and the new council really didn't have enough information yet about where that contract would go and who would run it, so it was more of a deferral in order for them to gain a little bit of knowledge about the whole scenario.
Yeah, that was actually designed to come to previous council because of the experience and knowledge that everyone had as to that situation.
Right.
So this council was a little bit deficient in what they needed to know to make that proper decision. And so that's all a learning experience. That's basically knowing and finding out from staff or finding the staff finding out from us where we need to go and what this council needs to know and how we process that. So it's all good, but it's learning.
Well, making a decision without the knowledge would have been a poor choice. So, you got to learn before you make those choices. So,
yeah.
Excellent. So what do you think is going to be coming up in the next short while that's going to be pressing for the town to know?
Well, I think at this point, as we go into, we're into the start of the budget cycle, so we need to get working on that. We'll start on that. We've already talked about starting into the OCP on a fairly short time frame. That is usually dealt with kind of best practices every 5 years, so we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on that. So we'll start that process and get into it. It takes a long time and engaging in every chapter of that whole decision-making process. But we'll get that started. And what we'd like to do is get sections done as we move forward. And then hopefully within a 5-year term, we'll have it all complete, and then it'll be time to start over again. And it'll be kind of a living document going forward.
One of the impressions I got during the election was that the OCP was overall generally fairly decent. It was sections, like you said, zoning was a big one that really needed to be addressed first. Other areas were still quite fact-based and still very useful to today's standards from 5-10 years ago. Even just that one area what really needed to be looked at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good document. We've got a great base. You don't go in and just change everything. You go in and say what's applicable to the community at this point in time and make those changes going forward.
Right.
I think that's the key to all of that document. And then we'll look at the zoning, some of the antiquated zoning bylaws that never got to council over the years because of at-need things that had to be dealt with at the time. Some of those putting out the fire things.
Well, I keep walking by City Hall with the dog, and I always notice people are in there having meetings. Saw Mike in there. I'm assuming everyone's in there, and they're ready to crack down, and we're going to work on those building permits and make sure that this spring it's a little bit more forward moving.
Yep, and nothing's really changed as far as work. It carries on. City council, city hall, that sort of thing. The corporation of the city of Revelstoke is continuous. So while during the election process, that work still carried on. The staff still carried on doing what they need to do. So now it's kind of finding processes. How does council work? How does the staff work? And I look at things about how do we build teams so that we can work together to move things forward and empower everyone to get what they need to do done.
Okay. Do we have somebody new in the development department?
We have another planner. Michael's there. Just joined us last week, and we're still trying to find a development director.
Right. Okay. So we still got a call out for that.
Yep.
It's getting harder to find staff for that. Holy smokes. Okay. The other question is, and I'm not sure if you know just off the top, did you assign the council to which departments of the city? Did you?
Yeah, I did. And I don't have all of that list in front of me.
Okay.
So I tried to have conversations with each member of council and find out what their interests were. We're going to carry on with the committee of the whole process. I find that process just easy. It's easier for staff, and it's easier for the council not having to run off in 20 different directions for a bunch of different meetings when we can gather all the staff together and ask questions in one room at one time.
Okay. So besides OCP, what's the second thing on your brain that you'd like to try to start the ball moving on?
Well, we're going to get a report at some point from the staff dealing with the old vacation rental issue. And we need to revisit that and see where we go from there. So that'll be an ongoing conversation. Those are things that the OCP, vacation rental, zoning are kind of things right off the top that we need to deal with. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen overnight. It means that we're going to work on those things and see where we go from there.
Awesome. Well, Gary will be in on Fridays at 8:40, just keeping us up to date with what's going on weekly between City Hall and us. And if you have any questions for Gary, you can ask him directly by email, and he'll come up and answer them, or you can send them to me. I'll ask him. And as long as they're fair, we'll ask. So thanks, Gary, for coming in for your first mayor report as the new mayor.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.